Okay, hello to all of our newly admitted Tritons for fall of 2023. On behalf of the International Students and Programs Office, also known as ISPO, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. We are excited to welcome you to UC San Diego. My name is Laura Page, and I'm an International Student Advisor here in ISPO. I'm an alumna of UCSD myself, Revelle College to be more specific. I won't tell you exactly how long ago that was, but fun fact, I did get to shake Roger Revelle's hand during graduation. After I graduated, I had a prior career in the semiconductor industry, managing international accounts. My family likes to joke about how I always say that I feel invigorated when I'm on a college campus. So I guess that's why I wound up back at UCSD. To me, this is a lot more fun than what I was doing. College is a one-of-a-kind experience where you have an abundance of resources at your fingertips. Not only that, you'll most likely be meeting lifelong friends and be making new connections while you're here. I encourage you to take advantage of all the university's environment has to offer. Our office, ISPO, is a great starting point. Please come by during global coffee hours. Our staff would love to meet you, and feel free to join many other programs we have to offer throughout the year. Okay, a few housekeeping items before we begin today. First, you are on listen-only mode. You can hear us, but we can't hear you. Next, we're recording. This webinar will be posted at inewstudentwebinars.ucsd.edu. Lastly, please use the Q&A box to get your questions answered. Even if we aren't able to answer them today through the chat or during our Q&A at the end of our session, there are a variety of ways to connect with the ISPO and get those questions answered. Visit icontact.ucsd.edu to connect with us after today's session. Okay, now I'm going to introduce you to Pauline de Guzman. We're going to go ahead and begin our session, Know the Rules for F-1 Students. Take it away, Pauline.
All right, thank you, Laura. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to meet you. My name is Pauline de Guzman, and I'm the Assistant Director of International Student Services here at ISPO. A little bit about me. I am a first-generation Filipino-American. I'm also a mom of two, and my favorite fruits are kiwis and mangoes. On my spare time, I do enjoy cooking and also that feeling when you finally get to finish all of your laundry. I think the key to success is that no two people in the same room think exactly the same way. So just know that your voice, your perspective, and your ideas do matter. So make sure that during your time here, you are heard. Your time here at UC San Diego will be life-changing, and I'm really excited to be able to witness you all beginning this journey. So let's go ahead and let's jump into today's agenda. Today, we'll talk about your support system while you are on campus. We'll also review your immigration documents together and perform what's called a document self-check. We'll learn about the F-1 regulations that will apply to you all, and also review resources for travel and emergencies. Now, ISPO is here to help. We have 20 friendly advisors, administrative staff, and student assistants who are ready to help you during your time here. We can advise you on understanding your immigration status, working on and off campus. I know tomorrow we have really good sessions on working in the US, so please make sure you register for those. We'll also be able to advise on traveling internationally, or if you want to travel around the US, domestic travel, and also generally how to adjust to your classes in campus life. Now, another form of advising that ISPO offers is known as programming, and you'll hear this often here at ISPO. Programming is also known as hosting engaging events or programs to help you shape the best experience and understand all the available tools and resources for succeeding while here at UC San Diego. Now, ISPO is not the only office on campus who is here to help you during your program. If you're a graduate student, contact your graduate coordinator, and you can find your graduate coordinator within your academic department. If you're an undergraduate student, familiarize yourself with your college academic advising office or college advisor. They'll help you to navigate making academic progress during your program. You all have no idea how many times during advising, even rising third years or fourth years, we see students who don't know who their college advisors are or who their graduate coordinators are. So now early in your program, to help you succeed, make sure that you know within your departments and your colleges who those individuals are. You can also rely on your professors or faculty in your classes and within your departments. Lastly, there are other offices on campus that can help you during your program. Sometimes coming to ISPO and asking one question, such as, how can I find a summer internship, will benefit from a support system of resources on campus, not just ISPO. You'll need to talk to ISPO to understand the employment authorization piece of that question, but your college advisor or academic department advisor may help you to understand what class to register for. And the Career Center on campus may help you to understand how to search for internships, how to write a resume, how to practice your interview skills, and so forth. So as you can see, your support system at UC San Diego is made up of various units on campus. Also, take note of varying communication methods. While ISPO is available through Zoom advising and walk-in, in-person advising, other campus units may only be available through Virtual Advising Center or the VAC, or even by email. So as you meet each unit and advisors within each unit, take note of best communication methods. Now we will perform what's called a document self-check. If you have the following documents on the screen handy, go ahead and take them out now. Make sure that you have your passport, your visa page, which is inside of your passport, your Form I-20, and if you've arrived to the US, your Form I-94. While you take those out, we'll go over a few reminders about your documents. Your immigration documents are extremely important. You'll use them during your program to apply for work authorization, a driver's license, maybe a bank account, your social security number, and other benefits. Never, ever, ever discard or throw away any documents. Make sure to keep all copies of your Form I-20 from ISPO and every institution you attend. You never know when you'll need them in the future. Also, make sure that you keep all of your documents valid and up to date. Today, we'll show you how to maintain each document during your time here. It's also a good idea to ensure documents are in a safe place and accessible. I would advise to take photos of your documents and keep digital copies on your phone in case you lose them. Now, lastly, each time you prepare for international travel and each time you re-enter the US, remember to do a document self-check. An easy way to remember this is through this handy link, iselfcheck.ucsd.edu. This page will give you a thorough guide on understanding your documents and keeping them valid and up to date. I'm hoping you all have your documents out now in front of you, so let's learn how to do a document self-check together. The first document is our passport. If you have it, go ahead and turn to the page with your photo and biographical information. Your passport should always be valid for at least 6 months into the future. If your passport is nearing the expiration date, ensure that you renew it. This process can be timely, so renew it as soon as possible. If you have a expiration date of your passport coming up, something that I might advise or find helpful is adding that expiration date to a personal calendar or maybe a reminder on your phone so that you can make sure that you renew it at least 6 months before its expiration date approaches. Now, your passport can be renewed inside or outside of the US, so you don't necessarily have to travel too far to get a renewed passport. This can be done at your specific country's embassy or consulate. If you receive a new passport, there is no need to alert ISPO. And I want to remind you all, if you have any questions about the documents and any information that we're covering today, please do use the Q&A tool. We have our helpful advisors also online who are helping answer those questions as we go through the presentation today. So the next document I'd like to review is your US visa. This page should be located inside of your passport on a different page. Now, you can think of your visa like a key. And like a key, you only need a valid visa to enter the US, the same way you only need a key to come inside the house. However, once you're inside of the US, it's okay if you no longer have the key or a valid visa. As long as you're maintaining your status, and we'll talk about what that means later, you can remain in the US with an expired visa. When reviewing your visa, ensure your biographical information is correct. Also note the number of entries. This lets you know how many times you can enter the US during the validity of your visa. S means you can only enter a single time or one time during the validity of your visa, while M refers to multiple entries during the validity of your visa. Also note the visa type and the expiration date. A valid visa is required to seek entry to the US. If your visa expires, it could only be renewed outside of the US in a US embassy or consulate. Now, F-1 students and J-1 students are also obligated to keep their Form I-20 and Form DS-2019 up to date. Make sure the program end date, which is an expected program end date, is valid, in addition to the program level, major, and biographical information. It's important that once you receive your Form I-20, you review each piece of the document carefully for accuracy. If you need to make any changes, ensure that you make those changes within 10 days by submitting a request to ISPO through the iPortal. Many of you should be familiar with ISPO's iPortal, our online document request system, as many of you have already requested your Form I-20s and have entered the US. Oh, Laura, we're going to go back one more slide. Sorry about that. Thank you. Now, F-1 students are also obligated to keep their Form I-20s up to date by making sure that that program end date, which is an expected program end date, is valid. If you take a look at your Form I-20 in the middle section where it says program information, you should see a program start date and also a program end date. Take note of that program end date. I cannot stress enough how many of our students, because this is, a couple of years out, or maybe even 4 or 5 years out for some of you, they forget about this date and they forget to either extend it or let us know that they've ended their programs early. So it's really, really important that you take action in order to extend this program end date or inform us that you're finishing earlier. Remember that federal regulations require that you report any changes within 10 days to ISPO by submitting a request in the iPortal. Right, the next document we'll review is your electronic Form I-94. For those of you who have not yet entered the US, you will not have a Form I-94. Only once you arrive to the US will you then receive your most updated electronic Form I-94 record. This is known as your arrival and departure record. You can generate your electronic Form I-94 online about 24 to 48 hours upon arrival to the US by visiting i94.cbp.dhs.gov. Now, once you visit this website, it's going to ask you for information which can be found on your passport. And you'll want to use the passport information of the passport you use to enter the US. Now, once you generate the Form I-94, a PDF will appear on the screen. You will be able to print this PDF, which will also be known as your electronic Form I-94. When you receive the document, check to ensure the class of admission is correct. It should either say F-1 or it should say F-1 for F-1 international student. Also check the admit until date, which should state D/S. And also check to make sure your personal information is correct. Ensure that you save this as a PDF and keep it for your records. Each time you enter the US, your I-94 record will be replaced with the information from your most recent entry to the US. If any of this information is incorrect, contact ISPO for next steps. Now, while this is not an immigration document, it is a requirement for F-1 students to ensure that they report any address changes, and it is reflected within your CVIS record. You'll also need to ensure that you report the updated address to ISPO by visiting tritonlink.ucsd.edu. When you click on addresses to update your address, you'll also be able to update your foreign address and also emergency contact information. If you are moving to a new location, make sure that you update your address within TritonLink within 10 days of any change. It is important that you update your emergency contact in the event of an emergency here in the US. We know who to get a hold of in the event that we need to get a hold of family or friends on your behalf. You're able to enter a foreign address within TritonLink if you are temporarily leaving the US. Within our iselfcheck.ucsd.edu page, we do also have guidance on address updates and if you need to update it during a summer vacation, holiday break, short-term leave, and things like that. So do check out our website for more information on when and how to update your address. So now that you're all familiar with your immigration documents, you'll be required to take action to inform ISPO that you've arrived to campus. Only upon arrival to the US, you'll need to generate your electronic Form I-94, reflecting entry in F-1 status. Now, we've just learned how to pull your I-94 together now. So once you enter, again, remember to visit CBP's website and generate that I-94. And you'll also need to make sure that you update your US address in TritonLink. We've also learned how to do that today. Once you've done this, you'll need to log in to the iPortal and submit a request called the Check-in for I-20 DS 2019 Activation Request. Here, you'll also upload your electronic Form I-94 as a PDF. Then, after you've done this, we'll make sure that we register and activate your CVIS record. We'll also make sure that you've enrolled full-time. Failure to check in can have serious consequences to your immigration status, so ensure that you take action and check in as soon as you arrive. If your plans change and you are unable to arrive to the US by Friday, October 13th, which is the deadline to add courses for fall quarter, talk to an ISPO advisor to understand next steps. This may require coordination with your college, academic department, and other offices on campus. All right, so now that you're all experts at doing a document self-check, again, remember to do that each time you prepare to travel internationally and re-enter the US. Now let's go over the F-1 regulations that you need to know. Now, we use maintaining my status or maintaining your F-1 status quite a bit here at ISPO, and you'll hear it in advising, you'll hear it in, you'll read it in newsletters on our website and really everywhere. But what does that actually mean? What does it mean to maintain your status? This will also be used interchangeably with holding an active CVIS record or holding valid F-1 status. Sometimes, and hopefully you don't, but you may hear the term falling out of status. What are those things referring to? Let's go over what it means to maintain your status now. Now, when ISPO first issues you a Form I-20, you hold what's called an initial I-20, and your record sits in initial status. This means you're ready to start your program on the program start date listed on your Form I-20. Once you arrive and you log into the iPortal and you submit the check-in request, ISPO will then change the status of your CVIS record or I-20 from initial to active. Maintaining status means that once we've activated your record, you will follow certain rules, regulations, and reporting requirements for the duration of your program. Now, failure to follow rules and reporting requirements can lead you to fall out of status. And this means you will begin to accrue time in the US without any legal status, which is not good. If this ever does happen to you, you will receive a notification from ISPO via email very quickly to ensure that you take next steps to resolve the matter and get back into good standing. Now, you'll notice that instead of your program end date here on the screen, we list your last date of enrollment or classes. Now, this is because if you look at your Form I-20, the program end date listed is an expected program end date. If you finish earlier, your program will have completed and we will automatically shorten the end date. However, if you need more time, you will be required to submit a request in iPortal to extend this program end date before the current end date listed. From your true program end date or your true last date of enrollment in classes in your program, or if you're a graduate student, perhaps it can be your comprehensive exam or defense date, you will enter into what's known as your F-1 grace period. The grace period allows you to plan for next steps, including departing the US. You can apply for work authorization to work after graduation. You can also start classes at a new school, change degree levels, perhaps go into a BS/MS program, or simply depart the US. F-1 students have a 60-day grace period. It's important to note that students who fall out of status or withdraw from their programs early are not eligible for a 60-day grace period. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the top 5 reasons that several international students may find themselves falling out of status. And I bring these 5 up because we do have a good amount of international students here at UC San Diego, and I'm very proud to say that not many of them fell out of status, but for the ones who do, unfortunately, these are the top 5 reasons. So pay close attention and make sure that you don't fall into any of these situations. The first rule that's really important for you to follow is full-time enrollment. Or let's go ahead and move on to the next slide regarding full-time enrollment. Thank you. So as an international student, you should plan to enroll and also remain enrolled in a minimum of 12 units each academic quarter at UC San Diego. Summer is not required and is considered a vacation term. International students are required to enroll full-time each term, except in situations where they may be permitted to take less than 12 units, if approved for what is known as a reduced course load. Before you drop below 12 units, first come and talk to ISPO to ensure that you qualify and are eligible for a reduced course load. There are very specific reasons for which we would approve an international student to maintain their status with less than 12 units on an approved reduced course load. Reasons may include academic reasons. So this is in your first year where you're acclimating perhaps to the quarter system or just US teaching methods. It can also be due to medical reasons with a valid doctor's note, or if it's your very final quarter and you just need 1 class left to graduate. Otherwise, international students should expect to enroll and stay enrolled in a minimum of 12 units each academic term. Now, maintaining your Form I-20 requires that you really do keep this information up to date. As I mentioned earlier, many of our students may fall out of status because they forget to extend their program end date before the current program end date listed. So just like your passport expiration, put this end date inside of a phone reminder or some sort of calendar so that you truly remember that it's time to extend. I would put that calendar reminder, at least 30 days out before that program end date so that you can take action if you need to beforehand. Okay. In addition to the program end date, there are other reporting requirements required on your Form I-20. So taking less than 12 units. If you'd like to work and you know the type of employment authorization you need to apply for. Tomorrow we have great sessions on working in the US and the types of employment authorization you'll need. Those also will go on your Form I-20. So making sure that that's on there before you start any kind of work. If you're changing your major, maybe taking a gap quarter or taking a break for 1 quarter, also known as a leave of absence. If you are withdrawing from classes or from your program, or perhaps you'd like to transfer to a new school. Any of these changes to your academic program does require that you update ISPO within 10 days. The third reason students may fall out of status is due to academic integrity violations. Now, academic integrity violations have a serious impact on your visa status. Those who are subject to these violations must transfer out of UC San Diego within 15 days or depart the US. Now, this doesn't give students much time to prepare and can be very stressful. Learn more about excelling with integrity by visiting the Academic Integrity Office at aio.ucsd.edu. We also advise that you review your course syllabi and understand what is expected of you when collaborating with your classmates and conducting research or joint projects. Those who are subject to suspension due to academic integrity violations can face 1 quarter to 1 full academic year suspension. This may cause delays in enrollment at UC San Diego and ultimately the inability to continue your program of study in person with UC San Diego. This one is not too common, but I did want to make sure that you were all aware. The rules here in the US may be different from the ones that you're used to back home in your home country. In the US, there are state laws and there are also federal laws. Federal laws apply to all 50 states, while state laws only apply to that particular state. Now, let's take, for example, medicinal marijuana. Although it is legal in the state of California to purchase and partake in recreational use of marijuana, it is not legal in all 50 states. International students are subject to federal law, no matter what state they reside in. Though legal in California, students who possess marijuana may face trouble with federal officials. So ensure that you stay away from certain activities that could get you in trouble. All right, the fifth rule that we'll go over, and again, not very common, but wanting to make sure that it's on everyone's radar, is working. Now, I know many of you may be looking forward to getting some experience off campus and starting some sort of employment authorization. I hope you've all registered for tomorrow's session where we will go over the kind of work authorization you need in depth. Even if you have a social security number, you can only use it when paired with the proper type of work authorization. So your social security number alone is not a form of employment authorization. Using it alone without having prior authorization is considered unauthorized employment. To avoid serious problems with unauthorized employment, before you start working, find out what kind of authorization you need. Don't start working until you have the proper work authorization to do so. A great website is iwork.ucsd.edu, where you can explore different employment types available for F-1 students during and also after your program. All right, so I know many of you are preparing to either travel to the US or will travel eventually during an upcoming academic break. So visit itravel.ucsc.edu to learn about what documents you may need when seeking entry to the US. Also, for those of you who are planning to explore California's amazing locations in the next few weeks, I'll learn about what documents you should carry when traveling inside of the US. Ensure that you have valid travel signatures on the second page of your Form I-20, and that you have everything prepared, ready, accessible in your hand whenever passing through a port of entry. For those of you traveling to Canada or Mexico and to explore our neighboring countries, we do also have guidance on our iTravel website for tips on traveling to those specific locations. Now, this card on the screen is very important. I would suggest that you all download it and keep it as a digital copy on your phone. And I know that at our front desk, we also have some printed copies of these cards, so really handy. This is what's known as our International Student or Scholar Emergency Contacts. This has a list of phone numbers that you can call in the event of an emergency or travel emergency. It also contains important phone numbers and tips on what to do if you're detained by US Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE, or also if you're arrested by the police. Know that ISPO does have an emergency travel line. So if you do call our phone number after hours, it is routed to UC campus police, and they will route those calls directly to a member on our team to address any emergency needs, such as a travel signature that you might have hours before you're about to board your plane if you simply forgot one. Okay, so I'm really glad that I was able to join you all today and go over your immigration documents and also the basic rules and regulations you need to be aware of to maintain your F-1 status. I do believe we have a time for perhaps a few questions. So let's see if there are any questions. I see some great questions answered already in the Q&A feature. And let me ask if there are any questions that my colleagues would like to read out to me that the whole group might benefit from hearing the answer to today.
Hi, Pauline. Yes, we've had a handful of questions about what documents are needed for students to travel domestically. Could you maybe speak to that a little bit?
Yes, thanks, Jessica. Good question. So this is always a tough one because we recognize that usually when you're traveling domestically, you're probably hiking or you're surfing or you're somewhere where it's not necessarily good to have, you know, all of your documents on you at all times. But your passport is your main form of identification. So we do always suggest that you have your passport handy whenever traveling, even domestically. The electronic Form I-94, which you can keep in your phone as an electronic document. You can also print that out, maybe fold it in fours and also keep it tucked away in your passport. Those two documents are quite handy. Also, your Form I-20. This document is also good to have. And again, if you have it printed, great. Tuck it into your passport. Make sure that's there for safekeeping. Make sure that you keep your passport, your I-94, and also your I-20 in a bag, safe if you're out hiking or traveling, to make sure that you don't lose that. But I do highly suggest that you have it with you even through domestic travel.
Relatedly, Pauline, we have a good question. Someone is asking kind of along the lines of you just mentioning it can be cumbersome to carry documents around. Would we recommend students need to carry a physical copy of the I-20 with them at all times, or would it work if they had a PDF or photo on their phone?
You know, that's difficult. Federal regulations don't clearly address that, right, Jessica? The requirement for passing through the port of entry. So if you're traveling, you cannot show a Border Patrol officer your phone and say, here, sir, here's the I-20. We always recommend that you print that document, even though it was electronically issued to you, print it and have it ready for them to hold and view. So I would suggest the same, though you're right, it is a bit cumbersome. Make sure that you have that document printed, folded, and again, just tucked into your passport for safekeeping whenever you're traveling. Really good question, Jessica.
Pauline, if we have time for another question,
Sure.
then some of the feedback that I'm seeing is asking about basically work authorization, which I know can be a big topic. So maybe just something where we can point students in the right direction as far as authorization information. And also there's a question about volunteering on campus.
Yes. So tomorrow, this is a plug for tomorrow's sessions. And I think there are some on Thursday as well. Please do register for the working in the US as an F-1 student or a J-1 student. We go over employment authorization. There are various types. We'll go over which ones you need for what type of employment you're participating in, what kind of employment authorization or what documents you need before you can start, and also eligibility. So please do register for those sessions. If you want to get a head start and just learn a bit more about employment, there's a great vanity link. It is iwork.ucsd.edu. I'll ask one of my colleagues to plug that into the chat so that you all have it. There it is. Thank you, Grace. And that's a good way to just see resources on our website, but each of you may have specific questions. So after you attend tomorrow's session, we're happy to take more questions on employment. Thank you, Laura. Really great question.
Hi, Pauline. Could you talk about how students can apply for a state ID, please?
Oh, sure. Okay, so for those of you who will be applying for a state ID or a California's driver's license, we do have helpful information on our website regarding applying for your document. They may ask you for a list of documents that include proof of residence, and that can include your housing contract or any mail that you've received from UC San Diego. And there's another list available for F1 and J1 international students regarding what documents you'll need to bring to verify your identity. So I'll ask that one of my colleagues put that link in the chat as well. And students can be directed to the DMV's website for that application process. You will need to arrive to the US first before you can apply for a driver's license, as it does require a valid Form I-94. I think we might have time for one or two more questions from the group here. Oh, I see a question in the chat regarding the check-in. I've reached the US. You've submitted your check-in request. Let's see. Oh, I see. Okay, this one's a bit more in depth, so I think that one will be answered more specifically. Okay, I got a great question about the Form I-94. I entered the US a month ago for summer session, but didn't generate my Form I-94, didn't know about it. Can I still do it? So yes, the answer is yes. That electronic I-94 record will be available to you again until the next time you enter the US. And the next time you enter, it'll be replaced with your next entry's information, logging your latest date of entry. So you can go ahead and log into the CBP website now, enter your passport information, and generate your most recent I-94.
Pauline, a related question to that about the I-94. We have someone asking if they need to apply for that or can they simply access it. Could you maybe speak a little bit to the difference for a student who is entering through a like a flight port of entry versus someone who is crossing the border?
Let's see. And Jessica, just to clarify, they're a citizen of a specific country?
I think more along the lines of, is the I-94 something they need to request in advance, or will it be automatically generated for them and they can just go access it after they arrive?
Perfect. Okay, so the electronic Form I-94 is a record that the CBP or the Border Patrol officer will log manually upon your entry to the US. So this should be automatic. Once you pass through the port of entry, you will, again, within 24 to 48 hours, be able to access your electronic entry online. You should not need to request it. However, if you are traveling through a land border, so perhaps through our southern border through Mexico or perhaps through Canada, and is through a land border, it is common that you will get an electronic I-94. But however, since that border is a bit different than most borders, you may need to request a Form I-94 or ask that you request one in advance of your travel. Again, this is not too often, but on our website, itravel.ucsd.edu, we do have some resources for traveling to neighboring countries, such as Canada. Okay, great. So really great questions today. I'd like to now pass it back to Laura to close us off.
All right, thanks a lot, Pauline. Okay, we're going to move along. Let's see. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about some of our programming, and this is where we get to some of the fun stuff. Let's talk about meetups. They're a great way to meet other international students at UC San Diego. We're offering two different kinds of meetups, interest-based and regional. So to register for a meetup, please head over to iorientationucsd.com/meetup. And then we also want to feature some of our I-orientation events coming up in the next week or so. And we do have one on Saturday, September 16th and Saturday, September 23rd. We have the UC San Diego bus tour, which will explore the greater San Diego area and your new home for the next few years. International Student Fan Fest is another event, and it's our collaboration with athletics where you can enjoy free pizza, play fun games, win prizes in our raffle, mingle with international scholar athletes, and learn about volleyball from the UCSD women's volleyball team, and their coaches will be there as well. And then on Thursday, September 27th, we will be having our international mixer. Every day from Monday, September 18th to Friday, September 22nd, we will have our global coffee hours in the morning and lunch and learns in the afternoon. So our global coffee hours will take place in our ISPO Eucalyptus Grove from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m., where you can come over for a cup of coffee and a morning pastry. You can meet your fellow international students. You can meet us ISPO staff as well and participate in a lot of fun activities. And then there are also lunch and learns, which feature different topics every day, from intercultural communication to social justice 101, and lunch is provided for those events. And now for our socials. On Monday, September 18th, we will have our social international graduates. And on Wednesday, September 18th, we will have our international peer coach open house for our undergraduate students. And then we also have on Wednesday, September 27th, will be our GAP mixer for those who had participated in the Global Ambassador Program. And the fun doesn't stop there. If you want to know what's happening at UCSD all year long, our iEvents calendar is a live calendar that features globally engaged events hosted by student orgs and campus departments throughout the year. Head to iEvents.ucsd.edu for all the latest information on this. And then our raffle. We are raffling off some Amazon gift cards and ISPO swag as part of our Instagram giveaway. To enter, first you need to follow us on Instagram, then like this post. Finally, take a picture at iOrientation and either share it as an Instagram post or as an Instagram story. Just make sure to tag at ispo.ucsd so that we can reshare all the fun. It can be a picture from attending one of our workshops, a social event, or even using one of our AR filters. So best of luck to all who apply. And then please take a moment to scan the QR code on the screen. It will take you to the survey for this session. We would love to hear your feedback so we can continually improve these sessions and better serve you. While you're filling that out, a few final reminders. Once you arrive to the US and begin your studies, please submit the check-in for I-20/DS2019 activation form in the iPortal. And please continue to register for other orientation sessions by visiting iorientationucsd.com. Lastly, you can always contact ISPO at icontact@ucsd.edu and follow us on social media. So for those of you who are interested in more information about work employment, I would suggest you go to the iorientationucsd.com website and see and look for the workshop there. And then let's see, sorry, actually, let me go into the next slide. And then we just want to say from the bottom of our hearts, thank you all for attending today's session. Again, whether you're joining us from inside of the US or from the other side of the world, on behalf of the International Students and Programs Office here at UC San Diego, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, evening, or morning. Have a great fall quarter. See you all at our next session. Take care.